And we are back in the Copenhagen FinTech Lab, for those of you who are still hanging on here. So this is the last session of the day for the last 15-20 minutes. And we wanted to end the day with a bit more intimate and personal, on a bit more intimate and personal note. So we wanted to zoom in on one of the stories from the trenches. A fintech that spans developing markets in Central and South America, Africa, and hopefully also going forward, Asia. So with me in the studio today, I have Lars Moller from the company Ingemann and Agroclimatica. Actually, it's Lars Sequero.
More or less.
Close enough. From Ingemann and Agroclimatica. So welcome, Lars.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Maybe just give a short intro to yourself and a little bit about what it is you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah, so Agroclimatica is a platform that we've developed within my family's business called Ingemann. We are entrepreneurial of spirit and started some years ago developing an agro business, an agro export business in Nicaragua, for reasons that is not quite justifiable, besides the fact that it was one of those things of life. So today we have a Agroclimatic risk score. So we have a platform that assesses risks for agricultural credits around the world.
So I want to actually stay a little bit on on the journey from Denmark and Nicaragua, because it just tell us a little bit more about how did you end up in Nicaragua and what is it that Ingemann is actually doing?
Yeah, so I ended up marrying a beekeeper's daughter from Uruguay. And she needed to come to Denmark in order to get her residence permit. She needed a job. My father, who is also entrepreneurial spirit, had been working in big corporation for a long time, food trading food. He knew about food trading, she knew about honey, so we started importing honey from Latin America into Europe. Through there we came into contact with an opportunity to set up a company in Nicaragua to produce our own organic honey. So we did that from 2007, established a company. And today we work with a number of producers, buying their production, exporting it to Europe. And then we later bought a cocoa company. So today we're a honey and cocoa export company, serving as the access to market for around 1,500 producers. So that's how we ended up in Nicaragua. And really, we realized that climate change was a strategic risk for our business. So we set in motion a program or a project to develop a toolbox for our own supply chain. The idea was to say, well, if we can project what will happen if we understand how a crop behaves as a function of the weather, and we can predict the weather, it gives an opportunity to understand the risk, associating that with good agricultural practices, so the recommendations, then we have a technical assistance tool. So it was sort of we built the idea behind this, as an effort to empower our own value chain and protect, so to see, our own business against climate change.
So how much of that came actually out of a sustainability approach or a thinking, a mindset around sustainability, and how much is it just good and sound business?
But I disagree with the premise.
Yeah.
I disagree with the premise because there is no mutual exclusivity between the two if it's done well. The more money the farmer makes because he produces more, the more we make as an exporter. So our business depends on their business. So this not mutually exclusive, and that's the beauty of the model.
So tell a little bit more about how you moved on from, or not moved on, but building on what you've been doing at Ingemann, and then building Agroclimatica that you're now building, and I know that is branching out in different directions also.
Yeah. So it started like a cup of coffee and a good idea. I said, well, we have this methodology. If we can predict how crops behave as a function of the climate, what else can we do with it? And we realized that, well, what about risk scoring for financial credits? a colleague of ours had been, came from he was running a successful MFI, and he had these issues in his day-to-day business. So that's how we started developing, or that's why we started developing this platform. Got some very good people in who then helped us to give it structure. And today we have a team in Managua developing all the content. We're developing our own IT infrastructure, and we're running as fast as we can because we're fortunate that I think we've stumbled on a niche that no one else has touched anywhere. So we're in a hurry to get out of that.
So you're partnering up with the established sector and giving them knowledge and insights.
Yeah.
All right. So what is it actually they get from you guys?
So our platform is made available to the financial institutions. The idea is that where credit officers, they have always pulled financial risk scoring. That's been a standard in credit assessments always, but they've never had a tool that could quantify the risk of the production unit. So it's one thing as a farmer, your willingness to pay back, but it's also your ability to pay back. So that's why our score is a supplement to the financial score. The credit officer enters the coordinates because that is the key parameter, the variety, the type of producers, the time frame, and then the platform emits a score, and then it's up to the policies of the financial institution to adapt the credit according to the policy. So if you have say this and this level score, then the credit rate is this, or then if it's because of drought, then I can offer you a irrigation system, and so on and so forth.
And you started out in Central America,
yeah.
And in the market in South America also now?
Yeah. So our platform is currently operating in 5 countries in Central America. We are working in Ecuador as the first country in South America, and we are launching in Kenya in 2 weeks' time. So we're quite excited about that. And we want to run as fast as we can. So we want to hopefully get to Asia within the next 6 to 8 months. We have some ideas about some of the main countries out there, because there is an obvious need. And again, coming back to the philosophy from our agribusiness, good sound business shouldn't be exclusive. It should be inclusive, and everyone should win. So if we can facilitate that more farmers get access to credit, then farmers have a better business, financial institutions have a better business, and hopefully we'll get something out of it on the way.
So can you elaborate a little bit, because I guess working with that segment, technology and farmers and in some of these rural areas, I guess you have experienced quite a number of challenges. So
yeah, it's not as much the farmers actually; it's the financial institutions.
Oh.
So the tool it's a tool for the financial institutions in their evaluation of the credit, and it's certainly a conservative industry. Sometimes you could wish a little bit more sense of urgency, but everyone has their standard operating procedures and their protocols. But we're trying to get in, and we're trying to make them understand that they really need to understand all the parts of risk, all the elements that goes into the risk assessments in order to make optimize their risk overall.
So in your experience, so the established sector is actually being the slow movers or the slow adapters here of the technology, where the farmers is actually ready for it.
I think there's a realized need. Climate change is real.
Yeah.
And the way that we live climate change in the first world is very privileged. But we are talking about people being coffee farmers who've grown up on coffee farms, never known anything but coffee farming, who, because of the increase in temperature, they can't continue to grow coffee. That's all they know. That's their whole identity that they have to convert. So how do we help this whole transition? How do we help farmers to see opportunities in climate change? We can't go farmer to farmer, but we can reach the financial institutions and help them to understand which are the crops of the future. How should they design their financial products to optimize, within this space that is climate change? Because it's not only risk, it's also opportunity. The coffee farmer, maybe he can grow cacao, maybe he can grow mango, cashew, banana. There are other crops that slide in to that to the new reality of climate up the hill.
And your platform would also be facilitating that kind of advice. So it's not just the credit score, but it's also
Absolutely.
actually about how to
Absolutely.
turn your
Absolutely.
production around.
One of the features that we have is that if the risk score of a certain inquiry turns out high, then you can actually the platform can propose alternative crops that would offer a more favorable risk score, so that the farmer gets something to plant and live off, and the financial institution doesn't reject the business opportunity.
All right. So what's the some of the, not necessarily resistance, but some of the friction there is between you as a fintech, agro fintech, and the established institutions? What is it that you experience when you have these kind of partnerships dialogue?
I think it's just a challenge to change the SOPs. We generally don't have bad meetings. Everyone sees it working and say, well, this makes all the sense in the world. Just had a user coming back say, well, by quantifying the risk on all my credits, I can actually save money on my insurance, because now I only take out an insurance on the high risk credits, but not on the lower risk credits, right? So it makes sense to everyone. It clicks, but from seeing it and be able to, see the relevance, and then from a strategic level, within the financial institution, to include it as part of the checklist that the credit officer has to, fulfill to the investment committee. There's a little bit of time, and that's what we're working on right now.
All right. So tell us a little bit about what kind of or how do you get access to data? Because I guess it's multiple data sources that you actually need.
So we're lucky. We have a very competent team sitting in our office in Managua and in Amsterdam and around in a couple of locations. We would work with climate. Climate's the first pillar. We would work with historical data from international climate modeling from 1971 until 2050. So that makes it proactive. Then we have soil maps, taking a point of departure in local soil maps, but then enriching it with satellite data, satellite imagery. And then crops. So we have a technical description of each, not only crop, but variety of crop, and also livestock. We have more than 80 different races, types of genetics. So there's a lot of data that goes into each country. And a lot of methodology that goes into it, but that's also what makes it such a valuable tool.
Sure. So what's your plan for the future? How do you see the development of the platform, to the extent that you can open that box a bit and let us in, but also for Agroclimatica and your scaling journey?
Well, we want to run as fast as we can. We hope that once we get building the momentum and get more and more success stories, that it will accelerate, and there will be synergies in there. We on the inside are working on different new features. For example, a CO2 footprint calculator. So imagine that on each agricultural credit, we could quantify the footprint. That would allow the bank to quantify the CO2 footprint in their portfolio, which they can communicate, get access to cheaper funding, start making programs to convert agriculture into something that is, has a lower CO2 footprint, and then continue to monitoring it. That would be a very nice feature, which we're almost done developing. So there's a lot of ideas out there that would make a lot of sense and would actually be applicable in this whole transition process towards, we have to produce food for 9 billion people in just a minute.
And now you're going live in Kenya in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And then what's next?
Next is Asia, considering India, considering Indonesia, some of the bigger countries out there. We've also been fortunate, again, not to find any directly competitive products out there. So we're trying to set the bar as high as we can.
Fantastic. Lars, I think we will reach the end here of this, both of this session, but actually also of the first day of the Copenhagen FinTech Week Global Edition. Thank you so much for joining us. That was super interesting to hear about your journey, both on a personal level, but also on a business level. For those of you still out there, thank you so much for joining us today. You can rest assured we will be also here in the morning. So thank you so much for today. It's been a huge pleasure. We will be signing off now from here on, and we will be seeing you in the morning. Thank you.